Okay. So the basic Spring core module I'll cover. Guys, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the Spring core module, which is really required to understand during the development of the application, right? We need to do all this stuff like dependency injections and all auto wiring kind of stuff. So we have to understand how Spring works. From IOC, we can get that knowledge. And JDBC and ORM, I'll give few examples on them, including how to create connection pools and all, so that your application you would able to connect with the databases and you can able to do SQL or non-SQL operations. And Spring MVC, it's an old style of application development. Um, Still, I'll give you a few examples on MVC and architecture as well, so that if you get a chance in any old application which is using old MVC framework, right? There you can understand how to deal with it, so that you know I'll cover MVC also. And nowadays everybody using Spring Boot. Spring Boot a kind of development only happening for most of the applications, and that too we are developing the
Hello.
microservices. Yeah,
You are not audible.
is it with everyone? Am I not audible?
You're audible.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So can you please check your headset or your volume? Okay, so that you could able to hear. Yeah. So microservices, architecture and how we need to develop them using Spring Boot, that we should understand, so that almost 99% of applications are happening in or as a microservices, and most of them are using NoSQL databases rather than Oracle or MySQL kind of thing. So I'll cover each and everything that helps you in your development, and I'll give you a few examples on Swagger and the motto which is useful for unit testing. Apart from this, do let me know if you have any other requirement, or you guys are already working and you have specific requirement in your applications, or you guys are still learning and you know, waiting for a job, so that I'll prepare myself to deliver the content. So can we have a quick introduction? I'll start with me. So myself, Naveen, I have almost 12 years in this Java development and training as well. I have been with DURGASOFT almost from last 10 years, and I'm working for various organizations. I work for initially uh, Saudi client, and I did for few LMS applications for them, and I did e-commerce applications for US clients, and I joined Citibank. Almost I was with them 3 years on banking domain, and thereafter I moved to again a insurance domain, which is new to me. Almost from 2 years I have been here, and my role is I'm a like technical lead and a kind of a junior or associate architect. Um, so I used to help my team on the designing front and the implementation front, and I used to involve in the development as well. Apart from this training, I used to do that stuff. That's about myself. And can we have a quick introduction? Abjit. Guys, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Damodar, shall we start with you?
Yes, myself, Damodar, I'm working in Dubai, and from I have around 12 years of to 13 years of experience in development environment. This one actually mainly I'm concentrating on Spring Boot and microservices. And this one, how frequently? Just want to know that this weekend batches, how soon you? I mean, this institute used to conduct every weekend, or how it is? I came to know recently. So yesterday night only I came to know that immediately I joined.
Okay.
Just want to know that
Yeah.
only this weekend or next weekend also.
No, I joined them recently. I mean, earlier I used to them, but due to some family things, right, I was unable to collaborate with them almost from last 2 years. So I used to conduct mostly workshops. So we used to have Hibernate spring workshops regularly. Every month we used to have 2 or 3 workshop sessions.
Every month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apart from this, I'll start regular training also, like 1 month cross course. You guys can join there also if you miss something here.
Okay, because instead of going for 1 month, I prefer these 2 days.
Yeah.
That's why I joined here to cover Spring Boot and microservices mainly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it from my end.
Yeah. So then Abhimanyu Kumar.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. I am Abhimanyu Kumar. Currently, I am working in TCS. I have 1 year of experience and I did my BTech and MTech. But Spring Boot is new to me. I want to learn Spring Boot and microservices.
Do you know Spring Core and other modules?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Only Java I know.
Okay. Fine. No problem. And Ajit. Alok. Farooq. Harinath.
Hi Naveen, good morning. This is Harinath. I have around 16 years of experience in IT or in development with variety of technologies, but unfortunately I didn't got a chance to work on Spring Boot and Spring. I have a basic understanding of it, but not fully working knowledge on that. So I'm looking forward to know more about it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And who want to go to next? Maheshwar.
Sir, actually, I would like to know what are the prerequisites of this course before doing this course.
If you know basic core Java knowledge, that would be enough.
Okay. Actually, I have done BCA, and so I have core Java knowledge. I have learned it from YouTube only, DURGASOFT only, Durga sir.
Okay, great. And there are multiple videos of mine there in YouTube also. You can go through them. I covered almost many IOC sessions and MVC. Many are there, but the Spring Boot and microservices recently we evaluated so much here, right? So these videos are not there. Apart from that, you can refer YouTube videos also.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Sure. So so this is the content that I'm going to cover, right? And there is nothing huge here and nothing complex also in Spring. It's a simple framework to understand. Earlier, we used to have Struts, JSP. There are multiple other frameworks. They used to, little bit complicated in terms of architecture or tightly coupled manner. I mean, we need to do mandatorily some things compulsory. We extend something or we implement something. Such kind of frameworks we used to have earlier. But Spring is such a framework easily everybody can understand, and you can focus more on development instead of focusing on configurations, or instead of focusing on setting up the environment. So that much help we will get from the Spring. Let me start with a simple MVC architecture so that you can understand where basically this Spring or any other frameworks are useful. As you already know, right, you guys already know. Um, Application development, usually it used to happen in MVC architecture. Okay, model view controller we used to say. So this is the architecture we follow for any application. Okay, any application in the sense most of the web applications or enterprise applications. In this MVC, okay, we used to have presentation layer. Okay, and we used to have server side part. We can divide them into two layers on high level. One is the presentation view layer, and the one is server side layer. Before Spring, right? Spring came into the market earlier in 2005, 6, there around it came. But before that, there are many other frameworks in the market for implementing it. MVC applications, particularly in Java domain, right? So whoever working on Java, who want to use Java for their MVC application development. So again, what is MVC applications means? Any web application, simple web applications. Let's say you have a simple e-commerce store, your store application, or your hotel application, whatever it is, or a single page application which you want to showcase about your business. All that applications, or any enterprise application also. Let's say you have some kind of e-commerce application, or not bigger than that. Otherwise, banking modules. Let's say when you say banking, not only the personal banking, they used to have lakhs of lakhs of applications they used to have for internal management, right? So any banking applications, you can take this MVC architecture for implementing them. Okay, now when we come to this, I'll say it.
Sorry, sir. Are you sharing any screen? I'm looking only the Word document, which is currently shared.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh yeah, now I can see. Wait.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's able to see, right?
Yeah, now I'm able to see the view and server side, the MVC, Java.
Yeah, everyone was in same page only.
Guys, you should have let me know. Sorry for that.
No worries. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I was.
No, let me start again. Okay.
That's okay, no problem.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was saying is in Java, right? Basically, we came to this session to understand the Spring. But before the Spring, what we used to have for the application development. As a Java developer, we are Java guys, right? So I mean, what kind of applications we can build means the standalone applications, which we can build generally using a simple CoreJava. This should be enough. Okay, for standalone applications like simple calculator, or which used to implementing in swings, right? We have user interface component swings, JWT. So using them, we can build these standalone applications using a simple database, which can run in a single machine. Okay, we say them standalone, and we can build web applications also. A simple, as I said, store application. You have a store, you have a business, right? You have a kirana store, or you have something, a cloth store. You want to implement a simple application for simple order placing and delivering it. You can build that web applications, or any applications like simple e-commerce applications, or any banking applications. You can build them as a web app. And we can build enterprise apps also. Enterprise in the sense, in terms of big applications, let's say personal banking, which used to have a lot of personal banking kind of thing. Yeah, a lot of infrastructure internally. They used to use a lot of integrations. They used to do a lot of security. They used to apply. So that kind of enterprise applications also you can build, right? So for implementing them for web applications or for enterprise applications, we used to have many frameworks earlier. For building web apps, we can use simple JSP servlets. We can use JSP servlets. Struts we used to have. Struts 1x and 2x and JSF. So this many frameworks we used to have before for building these web applications. And for enterprise, when we say a large application or a big application need to handle a lot of things internally, kind of security or kind of distributed architecture. If we used to have EJBs, so EJB session beans, and using EJB entity beans, we used to develop them. Okay, so when we use such utilities for implementing these applications, right? When we say standalone application, it's okay. You can download a free Java and free database, and you can implement application and you can use it. And here also these are open sources, most of them. If you want to implement a web application, you can use JSP, Servlet, Struts, JSP. All those are open source frameworks only. But if you want to deploy these web applications for running standalone, you don't need any special infrastructure. But when we say web app, you need, along with this, right? You need a server like a Tomcat or WebLogic. You need web servers or application servers. Tomcat is a simple web server. So the server you need to buy, and you need to place this application somewhere to access everyone. And when it comes to EJBs needs application container like WebLogic. You need application servers to deploy them. Okay, so such infrastructure is required to build a web app or enterprise app. If it is a small scale application, consider you are starting a startup and you don't want to invest much on infrastructure. You just want to build an application, and within no cost you want to run it. So if you use old infrastructure, right, or old frameworks, you compulsory need to buy some kind of environment, and you need to utilize them for deploying your application. Okay, but when you come to the Spring, okay, using Spring, if you build web application, or using Spring if you build enterprise or distributed applications, there is no special container required. So Spring came into the market to avoid this dependencies only. So whatever dependencies we have here, whatever dependencies, servers dependencies we have here, to avoid that server dependencies only, Spring came into the market. So if you go with the Spring, using Spring also, you can build all these applications with no servers or no containers. You can tell, you can call them like containers, or you can call them like servers. Those dependencies we don't have here. And apart from that, is there anything only server replacement Spring providing? No, apart from that, it is providing framework, or it is providing features to make your application development easier and faster. So if you go with any existing frameworks, as I said, right, using servlets or EJBs, if you start implementing your application, it used to take, let's say, a small scale application, a small scale store application, which used to have 10 pages or 10 classes server side. To implement that itself a small scale, consider if you implementing a small scale e-commerce. Okay, so for implementing itself, it used to take, let's say, 10 components we have, or 10 use cases we have. So to implement these 10 use cases, it may take a lot of times and efforts and infrastructure also. If you go with the existing frameworks, consider EJBs. If you are using EJB and Struts as a front-end component, for implementing this itself, it may go up to 3 to 6 months of development and testing. But if you go with the Spring or Spring Boot or microservices, within no time, within 1 month of time, you can implement your application, and you can complete your testing also within 1 month of time. I'm just giving a rough calculation here. Okay, that much infrastructure support, or that much framework support we have, you no need to worry about very skilled developers. Here we need a skilled developer who understands EJB's deployment. It's a very difficult thing, that implementation and compilation and deployment. And when it comes to the Struts, there are a lot of configurations that we have to do. So altogether, this integration and the development, it may go more and more time, and you need to invest on infrastructure as well. But when you go with the Spring, within no time, a normal developer or he doesn't need any special skills here. Knowing simple Spring enough to implement an enterprise application. As a new startup, right? You are the owner of your startup, and you need a team to build your small scale projects. For that, you no need the special skilled developers for implementing them. Who knows the Spring? They are good enough to build, a small scale to a medium or large scale applications using Spring. The more focus is on business only. While dealing with Spring, right, you just need to focus on your business logic rather than infrastructure logic or framework logic. So that's why Spring became more popular. Okay, so what things they avoided here is, whatever we have the dependencies or boilerplate code that we used to have before, right? So that all dependencies they removed, and the server's dependencies also they removed here. So that's why it become that much popular for the application development. Okay, let me give you a simple MVC architecture here to understand which modules we use on which layer. As I said, right, web application or enterprise application. Web application or enterprise application, we generally use MVC architecture to implement them. So we used to have presentation layer, view, and server side part. So server side, what we used to have in this MVC view we covered here, and apart from that, we need controllers and models. Controller will deal with user interface. It will connect with user interface to read the data and to send the response back. So whenever you pass something from the user interface or views, controllers will help us here to read the data. Controller layer. First it will read. Its job is just read and give the response. In between, it will give the same data for further operations, right? Once after reading, here I have some form fields. Okay, here I have field A, field B, field C. So I submitted this data. Controller will read that here, and it will pass the same data to model layer. And model will have business logic. It will have your business logic and DB logic. We used to maintain business and DAO, or we can call it repository. So these are the layers that we used to have. So the presentation layer job is, we need to design beautiful user interface for giving access to users. They'll go to the browser and enter something www.myshop.com, and they will get a page and they will fill the details. And once they submit it, the backend side, what you need to implement to read the data is, you need to implement first a controller. Controller will read the data and it will pass the same data to business layer. Business layer will do all the logical operations, business logics. It will do here. Once after done with that, to store our data permanently, it will take help of DAOs. DAO will do all the CRUD operations, all the record creations, record retrievals, updates, or deletes, all the CRUD operations we used to manage in the DAO. And finally, DAO will connect with the database for storing data permanently. We will have tables or views to access it, right? So the DB access we give to the DAO. DAO will connect with it and it will store the data. And the same way, it will give response back. DAO will connect with business. Business will give response back to controller, and controller will give success or failure or whatever response user looking for. That response it will share to the user. So here for this, as I said, right, we can use this Spring. We can use Spring here for implementing this end-to-end layers. So for presentation layer, do we have any support from Spring? We have in Spring MVC, we have MVC tag library. We can use the tags to implement this presentation, but those are not recommended using this MVC tags, but still we have that support. Instead of that, you can implement your front end using a simple HTML, or you can use Angular kind of UI framework for implementing it. Nowadays, we are not using this MVC tags for the front end design, but still we have, but those are not recommended. Okay, not recommended to use. Okay, you can go with plain HTML, Angular, or React, any UI framework for the presentation layer. And apart from this, for the controller, we have Spring MVC here for implementing controllers. We have Spring MVC, or you can go with Spring Boot implementation also. We can say REST implementation. So we can use Spring MVC or Spring REST. Spring REST here we can use only for the controller part. Once done with the controller part, for the business logic, you don't need any separate framework. You can use simple CoreJava should be enough here for implementing your business logic. Okay, and for DAO, again we have from Spring, we have Jdbc support. You can use plain Jdbc also, but it will avoid lot of boilerplate code if you go with the Spring Jdbc. Okay, instead of writing lengthy logic in a simple single statement, you can implement database logic. You can use Spring Jdbc or Spring ORM. If you want to go with ORM frameworks, you can use Spring ORM also. Apart from this, right, to run all these classes, which module you need to use for this controller part. We know Spring MVC we can use, or Spring REST we can use. And for business logic, we know we can use the simple core. And for database operations, we know we can use this. And here itself, right, to make sure your DB operations are, if you want to maintain transactions, you can go with Spring transactions also. If you want to maintain consistency in your data, you can use Spring transactions. And you can use Spring security here if you want to implement something, authorization, authentication. You can go with Spring security here. And to run all of these, right, we need container. Again, when you implement everything, you need to run somewhere, right? To run it, we have Spring IOC. So Spring IOC containers, we have that containers would able to run your classes, your MVC classes, or your security classes, or your REST classes. Everything you can run on IOC. All this stuff can be handled by your IOC containers. And between, right, apart from the business logic and database operations, you may need logging kind of thing, services like logging. I want to keep everything in a logger. Let's say you have something log implementation here. If you want to integrate with business, right, instead of integrating in every class and every method, we have a AOP. That AOP will give us support on the fly integration. It will do, you no need to write your code repeatedly. instead of writing 1,000 lines of code, what it will do, it will allow you to complete the same logic in 2 lines using AOP that we can achieve it. Here between controller and business, mostly we used to use it. Aspect oriented programming. Okay.
Sorry, what is this?
Spring AOP, Spring Aspect Oriented Programming.
Okay.
Simple, right? Everything is simple here in Spring. Earlier, we used to implement using a lot of configuration, but we have simple annotations to achieve them. I'll make you understand it in an easy way how AOP also useful for your implementations. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah. So again, right? All of this you can use. All of these frameworks you can use by downloading simple jar files. You need to download Spring jars and you need to configure them. Okay. You can directly download jars and you can configure in your class path, or else you can go with Maven. Using Maven also you can configure all the required. Let's say you need only MVC, you don't want REST, you can include MVC jars or MVC dependencies in Maven. Or if you want to go with REST, you can configure Spring Web or Spring REST in jars here. If you need security jars, you need to put like that, right? So everything as a jar we need to use in our project. Nothing much infrastructure required. A simple Java and jar files would be enough to implement a small scale to medium scale or large scale applications in Spring. Nothing required apart from that. And database, anyway, we need. If you want to use any open source like MySQL, you can use, or if you want to use any NoSQL databases, also you can use. There is a lot of support from Spring. Okay, so I think now you must understand where the Spring is useful, right? So Spring is useful. Complete server side implementation. For complete server side implementation, we can use Spring modules. Okay, so I want to start with IOC first. Okay, so that you can understand how to run any other module when we go with the Jdbc or when we go with MVC or any other module, right? You must understand IOC so that you know how to run your module, or you know how to run your application using IOC. Okay, so basically IOC will have containers in the form of Java classes. When we say containers like Tomcat or WebLogic, we used to download them as a .exe file and we need to install and we need to do a lot of configuration, right? Here, these containers, Spring containers, are simple Java classes. Okay, these are not something like Tomcat or WebLogic files. These are simple Java classes. You just need to understand how to use the Java class. That's all. Okay. And again, coming to here, this MVC, right? You no need to especially extend any framework classes here to use them as a controller or a model or DAO across MVC, right? A simple plain Java class across MVC, a plain Java class or a simple Java class, or many say Pozo class, plain Java class, Pozo, or a simple class. You know, right? How to write simple class? Simple Java class would be enough for implementing controller and for model or for your DAO. Simple Java classes, or you can say Pozo classes. Okay, you need to write a simple Pozos for business, for controllers, and for DAOs. You know, right? What Pozo means? A plain old Java object. Plain Java class, which is not having a complex algorithm, which we say Pozo. Okay, simple Pozo classes are enough for controllers, models, and DAO implementations. Then how to write a Pozo? If you don't know, let me give a simple Pozo class example. Public class hello world. Okay, it's a simple poser class. Okay, it's a simple poser class. You can have any number of variables here. You can have any number of variables, and you can have any number of constructors, and you can have any number of methods here. Okay, so it's a simple poser class. How to deal with this poser class, or how to run this poser class? I implemented my controller. Consider this is like a controller, or consider this is like a business, or consider this is like a DAO. Okay, so how to run this poser class? I implemented a simple poser, and you need to configure this poser in a XML file. You need to use a XML for configuration. Spring XML. Create with any name. Okay, so in this XML file, we have main root tag name called beans. So this is the root tag. In between beans and beans, you need to configure your bean class. Bean ID, give any unique reference here, ID, something H, and your class name. Bean ID and bean class. Wherever your class you have, right, the complete path, including package, you need to give here. That's it. So this is how you need to configure it. So the first step, we need to implement all our posers. We need to implement all our poser classes, and we need to configure them in XML file as a second step. And as a third step, you need to load this into IOC container. You need to load it into IOC. IOC is a class, right? As I said. So we have multiple classes again in IOC. The basic class is bean factory. Bean factory. New XML bean factory is the implementation. Okay, so it's a simple statement that we should use, a single line statement that we should use to load your XML file. Here we need to give the XML path. We need to give the XML input here, whatever XML we have. Okay, and where we need to run this, as I said, it's a simple Java class. I no need any special infrastructure. I said no containers are required, but to run any Java application, we need one method compulsory, that is main. So you know, right? You must be used this main method many times. Just you need to keep this logic inside your main method. That's all. So when you keep this XML here, and when you start this main method, right, the bean factory container will read your XML, and it will find out what are all the classes that you configured. Generally, what classes we configure are controllers, services, DAOs. So it will read all your classes from Spring XML file, and it will create instances for them. It will create objects. It will go each and every class, and it will create object. Once after creation of object, right, it will provide access to each one. So the controller need access for business, and business need to access DAO, right? So the business object, it will give it to controller, and the DAO object, it will give it to the business. So that configuration also we have to do here. We do in this XML itself. What are all the dependencies to each other that we configure here? So by understanding that, after creation of objects, it will pass them to each other classes. Okay. So the step one is simple. We need to create poser class. Create poser. Step two, configure in XML file. And step three, run through a main method. Run from main method by loading your XML into container. This is your IOC container class. That's all. Okay. I'll give a basic example. Okay. I'll give a basic example. How to create a simple Java project. So use Java 8 or any latest version. First we need to add libraries. Okay. So as I said, right, you need to go with Maven or you need to configure libraries. So go to jars. I already downloaded a Spring jars I have here. Okay. So I'll provide you all that links from where you need to download, or else I'll share from my Dropbox so that you can download them. Okay, just 3 jar files would be enough. Let me add all of them. So Spring jar files I added, whatever the version you download, you configure them. Okay, Spring 2x or 3x or 4x. Currently we have 4x in the market. Beans. Simple package I created, and now I'm writing a POSO class. Okay, hello world.
Spelling.
Yeah, so it is not allowing me to keep capital H first.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Main. Okay.
yeah. So let me increase font size.
Sorry, I forgot. You created which project? This one?
Simple Java project.
Okay.
Simple Java project. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nothing complex here. Just as a simple Java project, we need to implement everything. Only for Spring MVC, we need to use web project. Okay. So yeah. So here I have a simple POSO class. Okay, and I'll keep a constructor here. A simple constructor. You know, right? When generally we use this constructor, we use constructors for creating objects. To create object, we use these constructors, and we can, during the object creation, we can pass some data also here, but by using parameterized constructors, that we do that. So generally the creation of object will happen through constructor only. That's why I keep a default constructor here, and in this default constructor I'm putting a simple hello statement. Okay, now yeah, first step is done. I created a simple POSO class, and I'm creating an XML file in another package name called resources. Okay. You can use any naming convention. Okay, so in general we used to use a resources package. Okay, put any name here, right? Config XML or Spring XML or whatever it is. Create a simple XML, and in this XML we have to put DTD or schema here. Okay, so XML files always will be validated against DTDs or schemas. So you must need to keep one here, either DTD or schema. Let me copy it. Okay, simple DTD approach I am using. Actually, I mean, when we go with the Spring Boot, right, we are not going to use any XMLs also. There would be no much configuration there, but you will understand that one by one we go, right? So here the main root tag is beans. Okay, in between beans and beans, you need to configure all your beans. Bean ID a unique identifier we need to put here. Put any ID H, class name, fully qualified path means your package name dot class name. That's all. Now test your class. Okay, create container package or main package, create a main class. Okay, so first POSO class, then XML file, then main method. In this main method, we need to use our IOC classes. So how many IOC classes we have? There are 3 types. Okay, we'll discuss about them later. For now, I want to use Bean Factory. It's a core container. At the beginning, this container given to us. So, and there are some advanced containers also. XML Bean Factory. Here we need to pass our XML, new class path XML resource, just to read the file from. Okay, just to read the XML, I am using this class path resource. It will read it from the class path. Okay, instead of giving fully qualified path of your system, we can give the package name / your configuration.xml. Okay, from here it will read it. So this Bean Factory is a core container. It's a core container. Okay, and we say it's a lazy container. Core container is a lazy one. It's a lazy container. So lazy container, you know, right? In servlets also, when we configure, I mean, without configuring any eager loading, if you configure it, servlet instance used to create at the time of user request. Similarly here, Bean Factory will not create your class object until unless you call it. Okay, so let's run this and see whether it is creating your object. No, if it is creating object, then it must call this constructor, but object is not created. Which because it is a lazy container. Until unless you call it, it won't create any object. So using getBean, we need to call it. Factory.getBean of ID we need to give here. Then you can call it. Now the constructor is calling and it is printing the statement from there. So that's why we say this Bean Factory as a lazy container, and we have advanced container also. Okay, so we have advanced.jtv container, which is eager container. Okay, so how to use the eager container here? The class name is application context factory, or put any reference name. Application new class path XML application context. So here we can directly pass this XML and see. I'm using 2 containers here, right? Let me comment this core container logic. As I said, this is a eager container. Eager container, what it will do at the time of loading XML itself, it will create object for your POSO class. If you see here, I'm not calling getBean, still it is creating object. Okay, because it's a eager container. So which kind of initialization is good for our applications? Let's say you have 100 classes in your app. Is it good to do lazy loading or eager loading? If I go, sorry, lazy. Okay, so why lazy?
100 objects may be not required immediately.
Okay. So are you going to utilize your server RAM or computer for any other purpose?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you may be correct if you go with this AWS kind of infrastructure, right? Per request, they will charge. So in such scenarios, you are correct, right? Until unless user request, the objects creation may not require. But if you take a scenario like I am deploying in my own environment, I have servers, okay, I have infrastructure, I am deploying it. In such case, you know, I have 100 classes for the instantiation and for preparing application, right? Getting the connections and all. Let's say if it is taking 5 seconds. So when that all objects are going to create, if you use lazy at the first user request, as a first user, I came to the application and I need to wait for 5-10 seconds for the complete infrastructure preparation. In such scenario, eager loading is good. So at the time of deployment itself, it will make ready application for all the users. Even the first user also no need to worry about his request. Correct. So there is a banking application. They restarted their servers on something so and so a patch release. Okay. And nobody started using it. A big client started using it. He's having the most of the savings in his bank. Okay. So he logged in, and from the application side, we put the lazy initialization, and he waited for 10-20 minutes. The transaction might went fail. He may lost because of it. Then he will withdraw everything from that bank. In such scenarios, what we need to do, we need to keep eager loading so that whatever the first user who logs into that application, he no need to wait for the internal application objects preparation. Okay. Lazy loading is recommended in microservices applications. There also, which are using the functions, right? Like Azure functions or Lambda functions. And those are, in size, a small applications which are using internally, which are given for customers, right? Outside customers. For them, we should not use them. Okay, those are not recommended there also.
So if the default all objects are created at a time, it will not consume more memory or it will not make slowness of the application?
No, I mean, how much memory it will consume in terms of for objects, it will not consume much memory.
Okay.
Yeah, so application should be ready always before the user request itself. Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. So application or servers will consume more memory when actual users start requesting it. Okay. Consider I deployed my application with 100 classes. It may consume 100 KB.
Okay.
It may consume 100 KB consider. But when 1 lakh users request, then it might start using 100 into 1 lakh KB. Okay, for each user who used to maintain the memory, right? As a user,
Yes.
I logged in and my session, my data need to manage. In such scenario, for each user, it will consume 100 KB memory. Until that, it won't consume much memory. Just it will create whatever the required instances. That's all. It even not have any data also. Until unless user pass data, we will not have any data. We will just make ready our application. That's all.
So
Okay.
empty objects will be there.
Only plain objects will be there in your RAM. Generally, you know, right, where your data will sit on machine in your RAM only,
Yes.
wherever your servers used to have. Okay, so here you can see the difference between bean factory and the application context. So in this context, if you go right again, if you go back to your MVC application, either that bean factory or application context you can use here as a container for running your controllers or models or I mean, in terms of business logic or DAO logic, you can create everything as a poser, and you can configure them in XML, and you can run them on IOC containers. IOC containers are simple classes. Okay, simple Java classes. You can utilize them as a server. Okay, so yeah, so basically now we understand what are all the modules that are really required for this MVC application. Okay, and where to use them, and how to use them. Okay, let me go more into IOC concepts. Okay, now consider you understand how to create poser classes and how to load them into container. Okay, I have a controller here, I have a controller, and I have a DAO and business posers here. Okay, I have a controller poser, everything as we said, right? So controllers or services or business logic. Okay, you can consider it as a business or service. Okay, or repositories or DAO classes. You can consider it like a business, repositories are DAOs. You can name anything. So everything is a poser. Now we know how to create the objects for these posers. Consider my controller name is car. My controller name is car, and my service name is class engine, and my repository or DAO name is fuel. Okay, so the controller is car, service is engine, and the repository is fuel. We know how to configure them. Okay, so we know we can configure them in a Spring XML file. We'll create something, a configuration file, and we can configure the three beans here, three bean tags, and you know how to configure it: bean ID, bean class. And you need to load this into IOC container. Again, you know, IOC container class we will use inside a main method. We will write a main method class. Inside this main method class, we will use IOC container. There we will load our XML file. Configuration XML file. Then it will start creating objects. What it will do, basically, it will start creating objects. We know that in JVM it will create objects, right? So it will create your controller object, and it will create your service class object. Just a minute. Okay, and it will create a repository class object. We know how to do till here, right? So these objects it will create. Who will create? IOC will create all these objects. Now, whenever user pass a request to controller, consider there is a user, he started requesting to start the car. Okay, now car needs this engine class object. Car needs access to engine, so that car would able to call the engine, and engine should use the fuel so that it can run. Okay, so to call from one to another, we need to put the connection between them. How to do that connection? You know, in general, we create objects. So if it is a simple core Java approach, what we do, we create a engine, we create an object here, and using this object as reference, we can call it e dot whatever method you have there, you can call it. And from engine, if you want to call the fuel, then here also you need to create fuel object, and f dot you can call the method. So if it is a simple core Java, we used to implement this kind of logic. We need to create objects and we should call them to make a connection between each. So instead of doing this manually, okay, so it is not recommended. It is not recommended. Okay. Instead, you do this manual object creation. Spring recommending us to use. This is not recommended. Okay. We should not create objects directly to call them. Instead of that, Spring recommending us to use dependency injection. Spring given a feature to us. Spring given one more feature, not only object creation, it is giving a feature, dependency injection feature, DI, you can say dependency injection. What it is saying, you don't create instances to call them. As I am creating the objects, IOC, as it is creating objects, it is saying I can do the reference exchange also. If you want my reference, I can pass that reference from one to another. So it is saying you can pass this reference to here, you can pass this reference to here. If you want to make call methods from one object to another object using this dependency injection. Okay, using dependency injection, you can put a connection between your layers. So how this works and how it is useful. Okay, so how this works, first we'll see. Okay, I have Pozo classes here. I have a car Pozo. I have a car Pozo class, and I have an engine Pozo class. As I said, everything should be a Pozo, simple Pozo class I have here. And I have a fuel Pozo class. And for dependency injection, right, to achieve dependency injection, you need to do two things here. One is you need to create a reference variable. Okay, two steps. Step one, reference variable we need to create. And step two, setter method or constructor. Setter or constructor you should put for that variable injection. Okay, so here you need to create engine reference engine, the first step, and the second step you need to create a setter method here, set engine, which need to accept engine reference. You know, right, use of setters and constructors, you can use them to pass data into your class. So using this setter method, you can pass engine to your car class. So you can engine equal to engine, or else you can use constructors also. So that what it will do, using dependency injection, whatever objects IOC will create, right, that object directly it will pass into this setter method. So this setter method will assign this to this reference variable, so that your car class can utilize this engine object. Similar way, into this engine fuel reference also you need to create, and you need to create setter method here, setter or constructor. Okay, so I created a reference variable and again setter method. Then how container will do the dependency injection? Container will not do any default dependency injection. Okay, you have to do the dependency injection. How to do that? Again, in your Spring XML file, you will create bean. Consider I'm creating a engine object. Create engine reference, class name engine. Now I need to do the dependency injection of this engine into car class. So create car bean, class name car. Here, right, you need to use property tag. For setter, calling setter method, you need to use property tag, and into this property tag you need to pass setter method name. The setter method name is set engine. You no need to use set. Okay, just give the name there after set, and a reference. You need to pass which reference you want to inject. I want to inject engine reference. That's all. Internally what it will do, IOC container will access your car class set engine method, and it will pass this engine reference there. So this is how the dependency injection will happen. Okay, using setter method you can do that, or using constructor also you can do that. So what finally we achieved, what we achieved finally means, so in MVC we know we can create controllers, service, and repositories, and we can create objects to them, and to make a call to each other we need to give those classes references to its neighbor classes, so that references we can pass using dependency injection. Okay, we need to give access here, we need to give this access here, so that access we can provide using dependency injection. And it is not recommended to creating objects manually. Okay, instead of that, using the objects which are created by the container, using the dependency injection we can do that. Let me give a simple example. IOC dependency injection. Again, you know, we need to go to build path, configure build path, add external jars, add whatever the jars you download, and create packages. Okay, I'll create 3 packages now here. Okay, just you consider them like controllers, and I'll create web package for controller, and service package for business, and repo for repositories. So let's implement, or let's write a bean here, PL bean. Okay, consider you have a PL bean here. PL doesn't have any dependency. Now service. Okay, engine, consider engine like a service. Engine has dependency of fuel. Just create fuel dependency here. Fuel. Just create a reference and put a setter method. Okay, create reference and put a setter method here, so that you can able to call these PL class methods. As of now, I don't have any method here. Let me create one method. Somebody accessing. Yes, you guys able to access Paint here. Someone trying to draw here, right? So how to clear it? Disable annotation for others. Okay. Yeah. So let me put a method here, public void PL type. petrol. Just to call from engine, right? From engine, I want to call this. Public void start engine. From here, I'll call fuel dot fuel type. Okay, now write controller. Consider car like a controller, and this controller need dependency of service, which is engine. Create engine reference and put a setter method for this. Public void start car. It will use engine start engine. So basically car wants to call engine methods, and then engine wants to call fuel methods. So that is what we did here. Now to pass each reference into its dependency class, fuel dependency we need in engine, and engine dependency we have in car. So to inject them in engine, I created fuel reference and a setter method for that fuel. In car also I created engine reference and setter method for the engine. Now create a XML. Just copying this existing XML here. Okay. So first you need to create objects. So let's start with the fuel. Bean ID, fuel reference F, class name. It is there in repo package, repo dot fuel. Bean ID, engine, class name. It is there in service dot engine. So here you need to do the dependency injection of fuel. How to do that? To call setter methods, you need to use property tag, and in this setter method, what is your setter method name? Set fuel. You need to keep this here. Okay, or else you can use simple reference name also here. Okay, you can use a reference name. Reference name is fuel, and you need to pass this fuel reference, so that what it will do, once after creation of this fuel object, container will go to engine class. It will call your setter method, and here it will pass your fuel object. Whatever fuel object you have here, right? This fuel object it will pass. The similar way, you need to create car object. It is there in web. Into this car we need to inject engine reference. That's all. Container will do two tasks here. One is object creation of your beans or your pozos, and the second step, the dependency injection. So if it can do these two steps, right, your classes objects will be maintained by IOC, and as well as the dependencies also it will pass it. You no need to worry about the object creations and the dependencies. It will create them and it will make available to each other. That's all. Now run it. Create a package. Create a main method, and we know we will use J2E container. Okay, it's an advanced container. It will do eager loading. Use application context AP equal to new class path XML application context. Give your XML path here, resources slash config.xml. So we know during application starting or main method starting itself, it will create all the objects. Let us see, is it creating or not? So fuel object created, engine object created, and car object also created. But as we don't have any print statement here, right? Inside default constructor, we can't see it. So put some default statement. Anyway, it will create objects. So once after creation of objects, I want to call this method start car. Okay, so get the car class object ap.getB. Car class ID is what? C. So using ID, if you want to call, you need to use these double quotes. Okay, and get C. Okay, car class object I got here. So there are two approaches. You can get this way, and you can give the car class itself here, so that you no need to do the typecasting if you do this. Okay. So time being, use anything. Anyway, we are not going to use these approaches anyway in real time. Now call C dot start car. So when I call this, what should happen internally? This start car should able to call engine. As I did not created any object directly here. Okay. So if dependency injection not happened, what should it throw here? Null pointer exception, as saying this engine object is not available. And if it go to the start engine, here also it is calling fuel object. So if fuel object is not injected, here also you will need to get null pointer exception. If there are no exceptions, right, which means the injection, if it happens perfectly till here, your method should be able to call. So there what it need to print the fuel name petrol. So run it. So fuel object created, engine object created, car created, and I am able to call until fuel method. So the car called engine method, engine called fuel method, and inside fuel method, whatever statement I have, that statement printed here, which means the dependency injection also happened perfectly using setter method. Okay, this is how we can establish connection between our layers. Controller layer 2 considered, right? Car is a controller, controller to service, service to DAO. Okay. So this is how you can do dependency injection. Again, right, coming to dependency injection, not only objects. No, here we see these are the main components. Basically, when we say dependencies, these are the main components. Apart from this, if any class needs some kind of names dependencies, I need to inject some names here, or I need to inject some database configurations here. How to do that? Or some kind of collection I want to inject. How to do that? Okay, that all we will discuss after break. Yeah, I can wrap up them quickly. Thereafter, we will go somewhat advanced concepts. Okay, one by one. Maybe they will share another link, right? So join on that link in next 10 or 15 minutes. Now it is 10:23, right? We will join by 10:40. Okay, is it fine with everyone?
Yeah, it's fine. They will share new link, right?
Basically, this is a kind of demo session, right? Everybody is to access it, but whoever pays, right, for them, they will share the actual access link for these 2 days. Okay. And
But we didn't pay any money for this one. We didn't receive any link. We need to pay, right?
Yeah, I think they will now approach you for doing that. I think they sent something in the chat also. See here, please send payment screenshots here. Every day. So I think account details they shared. IFC code, account details in chat.
Account details. I didn't notice. 1 second.
Yeah, please guys go through this account details and you can reach. Yeah, Google Pay also they given. You can utilize that if you want. Google Pay, Phone Pay.
That should be happen before this break time.
Sorry.
This payment should happen before break time.
Yeah, try to complete this payment so that we will start actual session.
Okay.
Okay. So we have 15 minutes more, right? So do this and we will start on that new link.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll keep this line on. If you have any issues, do let us know. Okay.
Yeah, please keep it open. We will take the account details.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this line will be open, right? Until we get the new link.
Sir, can you explain?
Yeah. Yeah. What is that question? Hello.
Can you go back?
Yeah. Yes.
The dependency has been set up.
Okay. Okay. So into configuration file.
The main class. No,
Main.
not configuration file. I think the main class where you have set it up.
Okay.
So we first configure the resources config.xml, and then the main class, which is car.c ap.getbean car.class we are doing, right?
Yeah. But really these concepts, to make you understand how the object creation is happening and dependency injection is happening. Once you go into the MVC application or boot application, right? We are not even going to write this logic. Okay. So, I mean, there we start the container. Basically, this access through command, no user will access, right? So we do that from the interface or postman itself. So just to make you understand here how this instantiation and injection happening, I'm using these statements. Okay. You need not worry about this.
Sir, I want to know the timings from 9 a.m. till what it will end.
6 p.m.
Only Saturday, Sunday, right? Only Saturday, Sunday. This Saturday, Sunday,
Yes.
and next Saturday, Sunday, right? Okay. In that you will cover everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
sir.
my plan is I want to cover everything this Saturday and Sunday.
Everything, but only Saturday, like total 4 days, right? Something or more than that also.
Not today and tomorrow, right?
Today, tomorrow.
Today, Saturday, and tomorrow Sunday, and then next week Saturday, Sunday. That's it. 4 classes total, 4 days, right?
No.
No. 2 days only. Today and
Only
tomorrow
2 days.
would be enough. Yeah, we don't
Okay.
have. See, if you can understand this concept, right? Nothing much. Everything is automated structure that we have even in Spring Boot everywhere. We need to understand the concepts. That's all.
Sir, you will
Easily
explain
done.
AOP concepts also. Sir, you will explain AOP also, right? Join
AOP.
point, point cut.
Correct.
Okay,
Join
sir.
point cuts, how to use the different kind of advices that we have, how proxy will work there.
Okay. And
Okay.
sir, if we face any problem in the project implementation, like this, whatever example you're explaining in this, we are trying in our computer, and if we face any problem,
I'll give my mail ID, mobile
Okay.
number. You guys can reach out to me anytime.
Okay, sir. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. My plan is to cover everything, but we'll see, right? By tomorrow, if we have still anything pending for 1 or 2 hours, we will extend some more time tomorrow and we will wrap it up. But I don't think we need that much time. Okay.
But everything will be done by tomorrow only, right?
Right. I
Okay.
don't extend it. Yeah.
That will be
I
better.
have, yeah. So maybe again, right? If you miss anything here from these sessions, when I conduct next workshop, you guys may join there. Okay.
Yeah, that will be better. Thank you.
Sir, we will get recording.
Yes, you will get the recording. I'll share all the examples.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do we get any notes or something ready material?
I have material, but if you go through the session videos, right, those are more
Okay.
useful than the material. I'll share you this material also.
Okay.
I have one that I prepared long back, but yeah, I'll refresh that and send it to you. What I will do after today's session, right, I'll send you all the jar files and whatever projects that I create, right, that all projects I'll share with you, and maybe tonight you can run each of them and just um, see whatever we discussed today, right? Just revise it. That would be enough for you to understand what we discussed. And tomorrow we will start advanced sessions like Spring Boot, MVC concepts.
So one question I have. So let's say if we are working as a Java developer, Spring developer, and in future, if we wanted to work with cloud, so which cloud is best for Spring developer, AWS or Google Cloud or Azure?
I don't have that conclusion with me, but
Okay.
I'm using Azure Cloud.
Okay.
Here we have almost in my application 18 services. I have 18 applications, and apart from that, there are 4 applications. For everything, we are using Azure functions.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the similar support in GCP. We have in AWS also. We have Lambda functions. AWS in terms of infrastructure, right? AWS is have huge.
Okay.
Okay. And
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, many of them using AWS only. Okay, so once after payments, here is requesting screenshots to this email ID, durgasoftonlinetraining@gmail.com. Okay, so send screenshots to this email ID. And I wanted to ask you here. So how many of you are looking for opportunities? I mean, you are not.
I'm already working, actually looking for a new opportunity.
Okay. So in India?
Right now I'm working in Dubai.
Yeah, I don't have any contacts there. Even I tried before COVID also
For Dubai location, Gulf country.
Yeah, I thought it to move, but again,
Okay.
my priorities changed.
Okay.
Sir, I have problem in my laptop, so I have connected with mobile, but now new link, so I can only join with one device, right? So can I type if I in between I have done payment, everything I've done, attach screenshot also.
Okay.
My laptop doesn't support audio, that's why I have joined with two devices right now, with laptop and one with mobile also. But now after the new link, I can join only with one device, right?
I don't think you can join from multiple devices.
Okay, then fine.
Yeah.
Sir, you have received the email? I've done everything, payment, everything. Hello.
Yeah. Did you receive?
From my side, I have done the payment and attached the screenshot. You would have received that screenshot of payment.
Okay.
If not, then let me know again. I will do. Sir, you understand Hindi? You from Hyderabad only, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Actually, I'm not from Hyderabad. That's why I was asking. Mostly Hyderabad people don't understand Hindi. Actually, in my office also a lot of people they don't understand.
You are in Hyderabad or?
No. I'm from Delhi.
You are in Delhi. Okay.
Yeah, born and brought up also in Delhi, and yeah, from Delhi.
Yeah, I have.
But in my office, a lot of people are from Hyderabad, Telangana, or these, and they speak all different languages. So while working in project, it becomes difficult to understand them.
Okay.
Sir, can you confirm that what is the Google Pay number?
Google Pay. It's a 8896
979797. Is it same?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, can you confirm you received my screenshot?
Yeah, the team will come.
Hello.
I don't have access. They will send you. Okay.
Okay.
So,
I haven't received any from there.
Yeah. That's why this line is open, right? If you have any problem, let me know. I'll call them. Let me talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. Yeah. We are waiting for the payments, right? Yeah. Send the new link. Why? Because I opened this is. If they have any issues, right, they can at least talk to me. So once you everybody get the new link, right, I'll close the session. Okay. 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 So send as soon as possible. Maybe in next 10 minutes. Okay. Now it is 10:40, right? Send it to everyone by 10:50. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, then fine. I'll close this link. Thank you. Hello. So they're saying you need to call to them. Okay. So if you are done with the payment, you will get the link. They wanted me to close this meeting so that they will get the new sheet. They will send the actual link. Okay. So ping me your email IDs here, email IDs and contact so that I'll send my examples. Okay. So I'm closing this session. Please, yeah, please send me as soon as possible. They wanted to close this to generate the new link. Okay, guys, I'm closing this session.